We'll talk about Bruce Thornton, and again, we will talk about Ohio State's Big Ten opponents release. So thanks for being here today. Let's get into it. So it's been about a week since we last spoke. And the last time we spoke together as friends, we sat down and said, what's new with Ohio State basketball? And what was new was Sean Stewart entered the transfer portal at the 11th hour. It was about 9 o'clock, 3 hours before the portal closed. Learned a fun fact over the past week. The portal does not close at 12 Eastern. The portal, or 11:59 Eastern. The portal closes local time. So those West Coast kids, they've got 3 extra hours, should they choose to use it, to enter the transfer portal. Close at 11:59, midnight, whatever the time is exactly. And about 3 hours before that, Sean Stewart decides, let's see. Let's just test the waters here. Let's hit the portal. Ohio State, not happy about the timing of that decision from Sean Stewart. As I mentioned in the last episode, from the day before Selection Sunday to a couple days, Monday or Tuesday of last week, when I spoke with someone, it was always if Sean Stewart decides to enter the portal, if Sean Stewart decides to not return to Ohio State, always came up for some reason. And I heard it, and it was fine, and I didn't do much with that information. And then, of course, again, we got the hint from Travis Barnum tweeting on Tuesday evening, one more Burger Boy. He's got to go. He's heading to the portal. And I saw it, and man, could I have looked so smart if I just said, Sean Stewart might be going to the portal, but I didn't. Regardless, he's in the portal. And with that decision, Ohio State unhappy, but at the same time, Ohio State now has some NIL funds freed up. That said, did they get back in the conversation with Kennard Davis Jr.? Yeah, they really did want Kennard Davis Jr. at Ohio State. Of course, as you recall, he visited Ohio State. He visited DePaul, had a lot of interest in Miami. LSU seemed like the leader. And the price kept going up higher and higher and higher. And for him, it was money. That was the only driving factor in his decision, was how can I maximize my earning potential? Right or wrong, disagree or agree with his approach, he ends up at BYU. Why? Well, because BYU has the deepest pockets known to man, apparently. So BYU lands Kennard Davis Jr. And this is, I saw a video on X, I think last week. It's the scene in The Incredibles where the kid's name is Dash, the little man who runs fast, and he's running in his track meet, and you see his parents cheering him on and then saying, slow down, relax. You got to look like you're keeping this close. That's BYU NIL. Exactly right. As I saw that tweet, BYU is like, yeah, we're good. We're going to be okay. We're fine. And then, we just offered 10 million more than anyone else because we have the money. 10 million more, is that real? No, it's not. But you get my point, right? Like, they're making it seem as if they have all the money in the world, but they don't want to make it seem like they have all the money in the world. BYU lands Kennard Davis Jr. That said, Ohio State is out on a 3. That's who they wanted. They don't get him. So you have that. And then you have Adam Jardy sending out a text. I don't know if he would appreciate people sending out screenshots of his text messages. I certainly have asked my exclusive subscribers not to share content that I send out. But hey, it got out. Adam Jardy, he sent in his exclusive text thread, whatever it is called there, last week, that Ohio State feels like they're in position to land some kind of a star. He didn't give out a name. We don't know who the name is, but we get that little nugget of information. And when it's coming from Adam Jardy, yeah, I'm here to listen. I'm sitting up at the table. I'm bibbing myself, putting a bib in my shirt. I'm ready to eat. I'm ready to slop up whatever Jardy is serving. Fork in one hand, knife in the other. Bring it to me, and I'm going to gobble it up like Ezekiel Elliott. Shout out Zeke. So he sends that out, and then a couple days later, we get Jeff Goodman. And pause. Okay, I get it. Some people are very anti-Jeff Goodman because of how he treated Ohio State fans during the Chris Holtmann era. Some people are anti-Jeff Goodman just because I think of his face or his personality. That's fine. Everyone has those types of people in their lives. I'm not here to tell you that you should be pro or anti Jeff Goodman, but Jeff Goodman said on the Field of 68 YouTube channel, quote, the hope for Darrion Williams camp is that he's going to get drafted and that he's not coming back to college. If he were to withdraw, Kansas, Ohio State, and NC State would be involved, end quote. So now we're having some things materialize here, right? We have that nugget from Adam Jardy, and then we have the nugget from Jeff Goodman, who's coming out and saying, hey, Ohio State is a team to watch for Darrion Williams. So who's that star? Is it Darrion Williams? Maybe. At this point, you ask the question, is Ohio State involved? Sometimes you have to play detective. I think that's something that I've learned since starting this podcast is that you get bits of info here and you get nuggets here and you get signs there and signals from this direction and you kind of put it all together and it's not a puzzle. Every piece doesn't fit together perfectly and it creates a beautiful picture of the Alps. Is that's a thing, right? Some mountain range, the Alps or something. That's not what this is. What this is more so of is we're taking something from a corner here, we're taking something from a corner there. And you know how there's like those pictures, some really cool pictures out there that there's little like boxes and that's a picture and you have like 10,000 small pictures that add up to one nice beautiful picture. And that's what you kind of get when it comes to putting together this information. You have to play detective, you have to be smart, you have to be creative, you have to be able to read the tea leaves. And I think at this point, it's pretty safe to say that star that Adam Jardy is talking about is probably Darrion Williams from Texas Tech. Now, I could be 100% wrong, but based on doing this now for a couple of years and asking, one thing I do all the time is I ask, hey, are you involved with this player? And if they're not involved with that player, guess what? They're going to say no. They're going to shoot it down instantly because, especially last year, you had situations where Ohio State was in on a player. And this is why they're being so tight-lipped this year. Number one, it would drive up the price for a player that they were in on because it hadn't been publicly announced yet. So now that player says, okay, well, Ohio State is involved. That's driving up the price because it's Ohio State. And Ohio State certainly has a lot of money, right? Well, if you listen to this podcast, you know the NIL situation for Ohio State basketball specifically. But you're driving up the price for a player you're going to get, or you're missing out on a player, or you're making the fans really unhappy because you express interest in a player and they don't want to come visit, or they're not interested, or you don't end up getting them. So now, and hey, look, hear me, okay? I don't know if anyone who I talk to within the program or around the program listens to the show. I sure would hope not, because there's better things that you can be doing with your time. I love you. If you give me any type of information, I appreciate it. At the same time, though, is it worth it to be that uptight? I don't know. I don't know what you're getting out of this year with being so quiet, because these players are still negotiating against you. And I don't think it's really any secret that a player is going to be in, or a program will be in on a player, because the player is looking to get as much money as they can. So the more programs they can say are involved, the better for that player. I guess it's more of a fan-facing type of decision. Whatever the case may be, Ohio State has wanted to be very quiet on the recruiting front this year in the portal, which I 100% understand. At the same time, again, you have to play detective. And at this point, you're starting to put together this image with this picture. And before long, you've got a beautiful creation known as Ohio State's probably interested in Darrion Williams. Ohio State, the star that Adam Jardy talked about, it's probably Darrion Williams. So let's talk about that player for just a second here. So the player, he's a number one player in the portal, not number one player available, the number one overall player in the portal, according to Evan Mia. He's number 6, according to On3 and 247 Sports. And he's also the best player available, according to On3 as well. I think 247 Sports has PJ Haggerty and maybe one other player who's still out there on the portal, ranked higher than Darrion Williams. But regardless, this is one of the best players available in the portal right now. The question for Darrion Williams is the NBA draft. He has until June 15th at the absolute latest, so it's going to be a long time, literally a month and a half from today, is as far as he could draw out this decision of, do I stay in the NBA draft or do I return to college? Now, remember, what Jeff Goodman said was, if he were to withdraw, you're looking at Kansas, Ohio State, and NC State. The vibes I'm getting, Kansas is a major player here for Williams, along with Ohio State. I think that's who Ohio State is going to have to fight off the most. At the same time, you got to look at what Kansas is doing in the portal and the players that they're involved in. They might go out and get a player who would take away either the money Williams could get or the role and playing time that Williams could get at Kansas, and it may leave the door wide open for Ohio State. So that's something to keep an eye on there, but I think Kansas is definitely in play here for Williams. Now, right now, he's ranked as a guy back half of the second round in the NBA draft. Wherever you go, he's seen there probably getting taken in the second round, not seen as a first rounder. He may go undrafted. He may get taken late in the second round. If that's the case, do you want to go play for the Omaha Land Sharks and play in a high school gym and make some not so good money? Maybe you get a guaranteed contract. I think that's a big thing in the NBA draft these days is guaranteed contracts to save money there. At the same time, would you rather do that? I don't know. I don't think that the Omaha Land Sharks is a real team, by the way, but some G League team, right? Would you rather go do that in a high school gym or go play at Ohio State? Environment there is great, yeah. Or Kansas or NC State. Play at a Division I program, make more money, use your final year of eligibility, and play college basketball. I don't know. Every player is different. Every player has different priorities, but that's a decision that he is going to have to work through. Do I want to be a late second round draft pick, a mid second round draft pick? Does he get feedback that, hey, maybe the Portland Trailblazers are really in on him in the second round if they have a second round draft pick and if it's like mid to upper in the second round? I don't know. As you can tell, I'm not a big NBA guy, specialize in Ohio State basketball. So that's what we do here. Regardless, if he gets feedback, maybe he does stay in the draft if that feedback is favorable. If not, if he returns to college, Ohio State, Kansas, NC State seen as the favorites, according to Jeff Goodman. From my own personal perspective, some guided information, some things I've seen Ohio State and Kansas being the two top players for Darrion Williams. Scored 15.1 points per game last year, 3.6 assists per game, 5.5 rebounds per game at Texas Tech. He was 44% from the field. That's fine. Definitely more of a volume shooter, 34% from the three-point line. That's fine, but he became a three-level scorer for the Red Raiders. He was most successful in the paint and at the rim last year for Texas Tech, and he would come in and start at the three for Ohio State. You've got Bruce Thornton coming in to start as a senior. He's produced. He's done it all at Ohio State. He didn't go from Southern Illinois to Memphis to Ohio State. It was Ohio State, produced as a freshman, Ohio State produced as a sophomore, Ohio State produced as a junior, and now he'll get to do it as a senior for the Buckeyes should he choose to return to Ohio State. We'll talk about that in a second. You got John Mobley Jr., who showed a lot of promise for Ohio State as a freshman as well. He returning to Columbus. Got Devin Royal, took a big step from freshman to sophomore year. You've got Christoph Tilley in there who will start at the 5. This could end up being a really, really good starting lineup for Ohio State if you get him. He scored 28 points against Drake in the NCAA tournament. That was, I believe, his career high. I only say I believe that because I don't know what his career high was at Nevada. I didn't check. So it was at least his season high, and he had 9 games scoring 20 points or more last season for Texas Tech. So you want to talk about a guy who can score. You want to talk about a guy who can help you space the floor a little bit, who can get to the rim and manage his way into the paint and produce points for Ohio State there as well. If he chooses Ohio State, that could be a big get. So Darrion Williams, I do think Ohio State is definitely in play for him. Again, we just got to wait for his decision, and it sounds like it's going to be a while. June 15th is the latest you have to decide if you're going to stay in the NBA draft or not. So we'll see what happens there with Darrion Williams. But I do think Ohio State is in play. It is a player to watch. I think we can put together the hints at this point and say, yeah, this is the guy that Ohio State is is really highly in on, that they feel good about in terms of being that star that Adam Jardy has spoken about.